The scrapyard floated in the cold darkness of space like a graveyard for dead machines. Thousands of broken ships drifted in long rows, held in place by invisible energy nets. Some ships had no engines. Others had holes in their hulls so big that a shuttle could fly through them. This was Scrapyard Station Gamma 7, where old vessels came to be destroyed. Hajun walked slowly along the metal pathway between the rows of silent ships. His boots made soft sounds against the floor. He was 34 years old, with strong hands covered in scars from years of hard work. His gray work suit had oil stains and burn marks from welding. He had worked at this scrapyard for 3 years now, fixing things that other workers could not fix. Before this job, Hajun had been a military engineer on a warship, but he did not talk about those days. When other workers asked about his past, he changed the subject. There was pain in his history that he kept locked away. The air inside the station smelled like rust and old fuel. Hajun breathed it in without complaint. To most people, this smell was unpleasant. To him, it was the smell of opportunity. Every broken ship was a puzzle. Every damaged machine was a problem waiting to be solved. His assistant came running up behind him. Min was 28 years old, with short black hair and quick eyes that noticed everything. She held a tablet computer in her hands and looked worried. "Hajun," she said, "the supervisor wants to see you, is angry again." Hajun let out a tired breath, was always angry about something. The supervisor was a species that looked like giant insects. He stood over 2 meters tall and had 4 arms. His body was covered in hard shell, and his face had no expression that humans could read. The thought humans were primitive. They believed that humans were barely smart enough to do simple repairs. Kept Hajun working at the station only because Hajun fixed things faster and better than anyone else. "What did I do wrong this time?" Hajun asked. "You fixed the cooling system in Bay 12 yesterday. It was about to fail. If I had not fixed it, the whole bay would have overheated." Min shook her head. The cooling system was scheduled for replacement next month. Now the replacement order is canceled and has to explain to his supervisors why we did not need the expensive new parts. Hajun almost laughed. He had saved the station from a disaster, and now he was in trouble for it. This was how things worked in the galaxy. Humans were never supposed to be too good at their jobs. They reached the main observation deck, where waited. The supervisor clicked his mandibles together when he saw Hajun approach. Through the large window behind, Hajun could see a group of new ships being pulled into the scrapyard by tug vessels. "Human," said. His voice was deep and rough, like stones grinding together. "I have received reports that you interfered with scheduled maintenance again." "The cooling system was failing," Hajun replied calmly. "If I had waited for the replacement, 3 ships would have been damaged by fire." "You should have submitted a report. You should have followed the correct procedure. This is how proper civilizations operate." His 4 arms crossed over his chest. "I am adding a warning to your employment file. One more incident and you will be terminated." Hajun said nothing. He had learned long ago that arguing with was pointless. The supervisor had already made up his mind. "Now return to work," continued. "We have new arrivals that need processing." Hajun nodded and turned to leave. Min walked beside him, quietly complaining about unfair treatment. But Hajun was not listening to her. His eyes were fixed on the ships being towed through the station's main entrance. Most of them were ordinary scrap, broken cargo ships, damaged shuttles, vessels that had been in accidents. Nothing special, but one ship caught his attention immediately. It was old, very old. The design was completely different from modern vessels. The hull was curved in strange, beautiful ways. The surface was covered in dust and black marks from fire, but beneath all that damage, Hajun could see something special. The metal had a faint shimmer that he recognized. "What is that ship?" he asked quietly. Min checked her tablet. Unknown vessel, original species, estimated age approximately 200 years, type, transport ship, condition, completely non-functional. It is scheduled for disassembly in 3 days. Hajun felt his heart beat faster. They had been one of the most advanced species in the galaxy 2 centuries ago. They were famous for their incredible engineering skills, but they had disappeared during a terrible war, leaving behind only ruins and stories. "I need to see that ship," Hajun said. "Hajun, it is going to be melted down for metal. In 3 days it will be gone." "Then I have 3 days to change that." Hajun walked quickly toward the processing bay where the old ship was being moved. Min hurried after him, still trying to talk him out of whatever he was planning. Other workers stepped aside as he passed. They knew that expression on his face. When Hajun looked like that, nothing could stop him. The ship sat in Processing Bay 9, surrounded by scanning equipment. 2 technicians were examining it with bored expressions. To them, this was just another piece of garbage waiting to be recycled. Hajun stepped closer. He placed his hand on the hull and felt the cold metal against his skin. The surface was rough with age, but beneath his fingers he could feel the strength of the material. This was not ordinary metal. This was war-grade alloy, the strongest material ever created. Modern shipbuilders used cheaper, weaker alternatives because nobody knew how to make alloys anymore. "This frame," Hajun said softly, almost to himself. "This frame is worth more than everything else in this station combined." "The scanners say it is worthless," Min replied. "The scanners are wrong." Hajun walked around the entire ship, examining every detail. The vessel was about 60 meters long, shaped like a curved blade. Its engines were dead and its lights were dark. By every normal measurement, it was garbage. But Hajun saw what others could not see. He noticed the way the hull plates overlapped, designed to deflect weapons fire. He saw the reinforced sections where heavy equipment had once been attached. He recognized the hidden strength beneath the decay. "This was never a transport ship," he said. "What do you mean?" Hajun found a small maintenance hatch on the side of the hull. He forced it open with a tool from his belt. The old metal groaned in protest, but finally gave way. He climbed inside into complete darkness. The interior smelled like ancient dust and forgotten centuries. Hajun activated the light on his helmet and looked around. The corridors were narrow, built for a species smaller than humans, but the walls were thick, much thicker than any transport ship would need. He moved deeper into the ship, following his instincts. Behind a false wall panel, hidden in a secret compartment, he found what he was looking for. Weapon mounting systems, heavy ones, designed for cannons powerful enough to destroy other ships in battle. Hajun smiled in the darkness. This ship had been disguised. 200 years ago, someone had hidden its true nature. Someone had made a warship look like a harmless transport vessel. "Min," he called through his communicator, "I need you to find out how much it would cost to buy this ship before they destroy it." There was a long pause. "Hajun, that is crazy. Even as scrap, it will cost everything you have saved." "Then that is what I will pay." Outside, and the other aliens laughed when they heard what the human mechanic wanted to buy. They thought he was a fool, wasting his money on worthless junk. They were wrong. They could not see what Hajun saw. This ship had been waiting 200 years for someone to understand it. Now it had found that person. The pale dawn was going to fly again. 3 months had passed since Hajun bought the pale dawn. His bank account was now empty. His sleep had become rare. His reputation among the aliens had become a joke that everyone laughed at. But none of that mattered to him. The ship was slowly coming back to life, and that was all he cared about. Hajun crawled through a narrow maintenance tunnel inside the ship, his welding torch glowing bright orange. Sweat dripped down his face despite the cooling system in his work suit. He had been working for 18 hours without rest, connecting power cables that had been silent for 2 centuries. "Ha-Jun," Min's voice came through his earpiece. "You need to eat something, you need to rest." "Later," he replied. "You said that 8 hours ago." "Then I will say it again in 8 more hours." He heard her sigh through the communicator, but she did not argue anymore. She had learned that arguing with him about rest was pointless when he was focused on a project. The Pale Dawn sat in a private repair bay that Ha-Jun rented with the last of his credit. From the outside, the ship looked worse than when he had bought it. Ha-Jun had made it look that way on purpose. He had added fake rust to the hull. He had attached broken panels that hid the real work underneath. If anyone looked at the Pale Dawn, they would see a wreck that was slowly falling apart. They would not see the new power cables running through the walls. They would not see the rebuilt reactor core, assembled from parts that Ha-Jun had collected over months of searching. They would not see the weapon systems slowly being restored to working condition. Ha-Jun finished connecting the final cable and climbed out of the tunnel. His entire body hurt, but he felt deep satisfaction as lights flickered on in a section of the ship that had been dark for 200 years. "It works," he said. Min stood at a control panel, watching the power readings on a screen. "The reactor output is at 43% of capacity. That is better than yesterday. We need at least 70% for basic flight. The ship cannot move without more power. Where are we going to find more fuel cells? The design does not match modern power systems. Nothing fits together." Ha-Jun wiped the grease from his hands with a dirty cloth. "I have an idea about that. There is someone who might be able to help us." The next day, a woman walked into the private repair bay. She was tall and thin, with long dark hair tied back in a practical style. Her clothes were worn but had once been expensive. She moved with the careful awareness of someone who had spent years avoiding danger. "Ha-Jun," she said, looking around the bay, "I heard you wanted to see me." Ha-Jun nodded at her in greeting. "Thank you for coming." Studied the Pale Dawn with professional interest. Her eyes moved over every detail of the hull, examining it carefully. "So this is the famous junk ship that everyone is laughing about. It looks terrible." "That is exactly how I want it to look." "Is it really construction? I have heard rumors." "Yes, it is genuine." Walked closer to the ship, running her fingers along the ancient metal. "I have not seen real work in many years. Most of their ships were destroyed in the war long ago." She turned back to Ha-Jun. "What exactly do you need from me?" "Power cells, shield generators, weapons components." Ha-Jun handed her a piece of paper with a list written on it. "Everything on this list." Read the list slowly. When she finished, she raised her eyebrows high. "This is military equipment, Confederacy military equipment. Do you understand how illegal it is to steal these things?" "Yes, I understand." "Do you know what will happen to me if I am caught?" "Yes." "Do you know how much all of this will cost?" Ha-Jun hesitated before answering. "I was hoping we could discuss the price." Laughed, but there was no happiness in the sound. "Ha-Jun, you saved my life 3 years ago. You pulled me from a burning ship when everyone else ran away and left me to die. I owe you a debt that I can never truly repay." She folded the list and put it in her pocket. "But this request is going to be very expensive. I do not have any money left." "I know, that is why I am going to help you anyway." She shook her head slowly. "You are either a genius or a complete madman, probably both." "Probably both," Min called out from across the bay, and despite everything, Ha-Jun almost smiled. Over the following weeks, delivered the parts in small shipments. Each delivery was dangerous. Each time, there was a risk of being caught by Confederacy inspectors who checked cargo ships for illegal goods, but was very skilled at her work, and every shipment arrived safely. Ha-Jun installed each part carefully. The shield generators were designed for modern ships, built using technology completely different from engineering. Other engineers would have said it was impossible to connect them. The systems were not compatible. They were never meant to work together. But Ha-Jun did not think like other engineers. He did not see impossible problems. He saw puzzles that needed creative solutions. One evening, Min found him sitting on the floor of the Pale Dawn's command bridge. Tools and spare parts were scattered all around him. He looked exhausted, with dark circles under his eyes and oil stains on his face. "Ha-Jun," she said softly, "why are you doing all of this?" "What do you mean?" "This ship, this impossible project. You have given up everything for it. Your money, your health, your future. I do not understand why." Ha-Jun was silent for a long moment. Then he began to speak, his voice tired but honest. "Do you know why I was discharged from military service? The official records say you disobeyed orders during a pirate attack." "Yes, that is true." Ha-Jun stared at his hands as he spoke. "Our ship was hit badly during the fight. The reactor was failing. My commander ordered everyone to evacuate immediately. But 400 people were still on board. The evacuation shuttles could not carry everyone at once. If the reactor exploded before everyone escaped, they would all die." "What did you do?" "I stayed behind. I worked on the reactor while everyone else was evacuating. I held it together with emergency repairs and desperate improvisation." He closed his eyes at the memory. "I saved every single person. All 400 survived because I kept that reactor from exploding until the last shuttle left." "You are a hero." "The commanders did not see it that way." Ha-Jun laughed, but it was a bitter sound. "I disobeyed a direct order. The ship was eventually destroyed because I could not save both the people and the vessel. They blamed me for losing an expensive warship. I was the one who saved everyone, and I was the one who received punishment." Min sat down beside him on the cold floor. "That is not fair. That is not right." "No, it is not." Ha-Jun looked at the ancient walls of the Pale Dawn surrounding them. "This ship was abandoned. It was forgotten and left to die because nobody thought it was worth saving, just like me. So you are saving it because you understand how it feels." Ha-Jun nodded slowly. "Maybe. Or maybe I just want to prove something. I want to show that some things are worth fighting for, even when everyone else gives up." The next morning, an alarm interrupted their work. Commander, a military officer, had arrived at the station for a routine inspection. The officer walked through the scrapyard with 2 armed guards, checking every bay for violations of regulations. Ha-Jun worked quickly. He disconnected all the new systems and covered them with debris. He made the Pale Dawn look even more broken and pathetic than before. By the time reached their bay, the ship appeared to be a complete wreck that was slowly falling apart. "What is this thing?" demanded, looking at the Pale Dawn with obvious disgust. "A personal project," Ha-Jun replied calmly. "I am trying to restore it as a hobby." "Restore this garbage. It will never fly. This is the most worthless ship I have ever seen." "You are probably right, but it keeps me busy during my free time." Made a sound of contempt and walked away. He did not look closely at the ship. He did not check the hidden compartments or examine the disguised systems. To him, the Pale Dawn was exactly what it appeared to be, a worthless human hobby project. After left the station, Min released a breath she had been holding. "That was very close." "Yes," Ha-Jun agreed, "too close." Then the communications panel lit up with an emergency signal. A distress call was broadcasting on all frequencies. "Raiders are attacking colony. We need immediate help. The Confederacy fleet is too far away to respond. Thousands of people will die. Please, someone help us." Ha-Jun and Min looked at each other. Colony was 3 systems away. Thousands of innocent people lived there, families with children, ordinary people with ordinary lives. "The ship is not ready," Min said. "We are only at 60% power. The weapons have not been fully tested. We do not even know if it can actually fly." Ha-Jun looked at the Pale Dawn. 200 years of waiting, 3 months of his work, everything he had given and sacrificed. "I think it is time to find out what this ship can do," he said. The pale dawn shook violently as Ha-Jun ran through its narrow corridors. Red warning lights flashed everywhere. Alarms screamed in his ears. The ship had not flown in 200 years, and it was fighting against every attempt to wake it up. "Power failure in Engine 3, Min's voice came through his communicator. "We are losing thrust on the left side. The ship is starting to spin." "I see it," Ha-Jun replied. He slid down a ladder and landed hard in the engine room. "I am rerouting power from the secondary systems now." On the command bridge, a man named Park Sung sat in the pilot's chair. He was 52 years old, with gray hair and hands that had flown more than 100 different ships during his long career. Sung had been a cargo pilot for 30 years before retiring to live quietly on the scrapyard station. He had never planned to fly again. Then Min had found him in his small apartment and told him what Ha-Jun was building. She had brought him to see the pale dawn, showing him the ancient warship hidden beneath its disguise of garbage and rust. Sung had looked at the ship for a long time without speaking. Finally, he had said, "This is the ugliest beautiful thing I have ever seen in my life." Now he was fighting to keep that ugly beautiful thing from falling apart in the middle of space. "We are getting close to the jump point," Sung announced through the ship's speakers. "Ha-Jun, I need full power to the navigation computer right now. If you do not give me that power, we are going to exit hyperspace inside a star. We will be dead before we know what happened." "Working on it. Give me 30 seconds." In the small medical bay, a woman named Jin was checking her supplies for the 10th time. She was 30 years old, a trained medic who had left the Confederacy Medical Service because she was tired of being told which patients deserved treatment and which did not. In her old job, rich aliens always received care while poor humans were turned away. When she heard about the mission to save Colony, she had volunteered immediately without hesitation. "Min," Jin spoke into her communicator, "how many injured people should I expect when we arrive?" "I cannot say for certain. The colony has 8,000 residents. The raiders have been attacking for 6 hours already. The situation could be very bad." "Then I need to be ready for very bad." Ha-Jun reconnected the last power cable and felt the engine start to work properly again. The violent shaking reduced to a gentle vibration that he could barely feel. He allowed himself one moment of relief before climbing back toward the bridge. When he arrived, he found Sung staring at with intense concentration. "Jump in 30 seconds, Sung said without looking away from the controls. "Everyone hold on to something solid. This is going to be rough." Ha-Jun grabbed a metal support bar and held it tightly. Min strapped herself into the navigation chair. In the medical bay, Jin secured her equipment so nothing would fall. The pale dawn entered hyperspace. For 10 terrible seconds, the ship screamed like a living thing in pain. Every panel vibrated so hard that Ha-Jun's teeth hurt. Every light flickered between bright and dark. He could feel the ancient hull straining against forces it had not experienced in 2 centuries. Then suddenly they were through. They showed normal space again, with beautiful stars scattered across the endless darkness. And below them, Colony was burning. The colony was built on a small moon, protected by a thin dome of artificial atmosphere. Ha-Jun could see fires spreading through the buildings. Black smoke rose into the sky. 3 raider ships circled above like hungry birds, firing down at the people trying to hide in defensive shelters. "They are targeting the civilian areas," Min said, her voice tight with anger. "They are shooting at places where families hide. They are not even trying to steal anything. They are just killing people for entertainment." "Can you identify the raiders?" Ha-Jun asked. "The ships are designed. These belong to Warlord." Min pulled up information on her screen. "Controls a large group of raiders in this region of space. The Confederacy has been trying to stop him for years, but they always fail. Sung turned the ship toward the battle. What is our plan here? Ha-Jun studied the 3 raider ships on the. Each one was larger than the Pale Dawn. Each one had modern weapons and strong shields. By any reasonable thinking, attacking them was suicide. They would be destroyed in seconds. We get their attention, Ha-Jun said calmly. We draw them away from the colony. We give the civilians time to reach the underground shelters where they will be safe. And after that we fight. Sung smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who had been waiting a long time for one last adventure. I was hoping you would say exactly that. The Pale Dawn dove toward the colony at maximum speed. On the raider ships, alarm systems detected the approaching vessel. Sensors scanned the ancient hull and sent their analysis to the raider captains. Unknown vessel approaching. Design is outdated by 200 years. Weapons detected, none. Shields detected, minimal. Threat level 0. Recommendation, ignore completely. The raiders ignored them. Ha-Jun watched the raider ships continue their attack on the colony below. They did not even turn to look at the Pale Dawn. To them, it was just floating debris, a piece of space garbage drifting through the battle. They think we are nothing, Min said. Good, Ha-Jun replied. They are about to learn how wrong they are. He moved to the weapons control panel. The system was a complicated mess of different connections and improvised components. Parts from 3 different civilizations were somehow working together. By every rule of engineering, it should fail completely. Ha-Jun activated it anyway. Deep inside the Pale Dawn, power flowed through pathways that had been dark for 200 years. The hidden weapon mounts unfolded from their hiding places in the hull. Targeting systems activated, combining ancient programming with Ha-Jun's human modifications. Weapons ready, Ha-Jun announced. The first shot hit the nearest raider ship before they understood what was happening. The ancient cannon punched through their shields like they were made of paper. The raider ship exploded in a brilliant ball of fire that lit up the darkness. For a moment, everything was completely silent. Then the other 2 raider ships turned, finally recognizing the threat they had ignored. They see us now, Sung said. Good, make them regret ever coming here. The battle became chaos. Sung flew the Pale Dawn like a madman, spinning and diving to avoid streams of enemy fire. The old ship groaned loudly in protest, but it held together. Ha-Jun ran from station to station, repairing systems as they failed, rerouting power whenever something burned out. Min called out enemy positions and shield strengths, coordinating their attacks. Jin prepared medical supplies for casualties that she prayed would not come. The second raider ship came straight at them, firing every weapon it had. The Pale Dawn's shields flickered and nearly disappeared completely. Ha-Jun felt the floor shake beneath his feet as explosions hit the outer hull. Shields at 12%, Min reported. They are almost gone. One more direct hit and we are finished, Sung added. Ha-Jun looked at the weapons display. They had only 1 shot remaining before the system needed time to recharge. 1 single shot against an enemy ship with full shields. Sung, bring us in close to that ship. How close do you want? Close enough to see the fear in their captain's eyes. Sung did not hesitate or question the order. He pushed the engines to maximum power and flew directly at the raider ship. The distance between them disappeared rapidly. 1 kilometer, 500 meters, 200 meters. Ha-Jun fired. The shot went straight through the raiders' command bridge at point-blank range. The enemy ship spun wildly out of control, crashing into a nearby asteroid and breaking into 1,000 pieces. The third raider ship had seen enough. It turned and ran, its engines burning bright as it fled toward open space as fast as possible. Should we chase them and finish them? Sung asked. No, Ha-Jun collapsed into a chair, completely exhausted. Let them go. The colony needs our help now. The pale dawn landed near the main shelter where survivors were gathering. Ha-Jun and his crew spent the next 12 hours helping with rescue operations. Jin treated hundreds of wounded people. Min coordinated communications between rescue teams. Sung flew supply runs to areas that could not be reached by ground. Ha-Jun repaired damaged equipment that was keeping people alive. By the time they finished, the local sun was rising over the small moon. The fires were out. The colony had survived because of them. A young girl approached Ha-Jun as he rested against the pale dawn's hull. She was perhaps 8 years old. Her face was dirty with ash and her eyes were red from crying, but she was alive. "Thank you," she said in a small voice. Ha-Jun did not know what to say. He simply nodded. As they prepared to leave, Min showed Ha-Jun something on her tablet. It was a transmission that the surviving raider ship had sent before it escaped. "Human ship, human crew, mark them for death." "What does that message mean?" Jin asked. Ha-Jun stared at the words for a long moment. He understood exactly what they meant, knew about them now. The warlord would not forgive this defeat or forget the humans who had caused it. "It means we are no longer safe," Ha-Jun said quietly. "It means someone very powerful wants us dead." The pale dawn lifted off from colony, damaged and exhausted but still flying. Behind them, 8,000 people were alive because of what they had done. Ahead of them, a dangerous enemy was waiting. 3 weeks had passed since the battle at Colony. In that time, Ha-Jun had not slept in a real bed even once. The pale dawn moved constantly from station to station, never staying in one place for more than 2 days. They were being hunted now, and stopping for too long meant dying. Another ship appearing on sensors, Min announced from her station. Design, coming from the direction of the outer planets. Sung quickly adjusted their course, sliding the pale dawn behind a large asteroid to hide. "That is the 4th hunter ship we have seen today. They are getting closer to finding us each time." Ha-Jun looked up from the damaged panel he was trying to repair. The ship was still hurt badly from the battle, and every day brought new problems. The engines ran too hot. The shields flickered on and off without warning. The weapons system needed constant attention just to work at all. "How did they find us so quickly?" Jin asked. She was organizing medical supplies, preparing for injuries that seemed more certain with each passing hour. "Has eyes and ears everywhere in this sector," explained. The smuggler had joined their crew permanently after Colony. She had decided that her old life of quiet crime was too boring compared to flying with these crazy humans. "Controls half the raiders in this region. Every port, every station, every trader who wants to do business has to report information to him. He knows everything that happens." Ha-Jun finished his repair and stood up slowly, stretching his tired muscles. "We cannot keep running forever. Eventually they will corner us." "What other choice do we have?" Min asked. "We are one small ship against an entire army, has dozens of warships under his command. If we try to fight him directly, we will be destroyed." The communications panel suddenly lit up with an incoming signal. The transmission was using military encryption codes, the kind that only high-ranking officers could access. "Unknown contact requesting a private communication channel," Sung reported with surprise in his voice. Ha-Jun hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "Accept the transmission." A face appeared on the. It belonged to an older man with short gray hair and the uniform of a Confederacy admiral. His eyes looked sharp but tired, like someone who had seen too many battles and carried too many secrets. "Ha-Jun," the man said, "I am Admiral. We need to have an important conversation." Ha-Jun felt his crew grow tense behind him. Confederacy officers were not their friends. The military had ignored their call for help at Colony. They had let innocent people die. There was no reason to trust this man. "Why should I talk to you?" Ha-Jun asked directly. "Because wants you dead." Admiral leaned closer to the camera. "And so does someone inside my own government. I am trying to help you, but I do not have much time before this signal is traced." "Then speak quickly." Admiral began to explain. The Confederacy Council had learned about the Pale Dawn and what it had accomplished at Colony. An ancient ship, rebuilt by a human mechanic, had destroyed 2 modern raider vessels in combat. This news should have been celebrated as a victory. Instead, it had caused fear and anger among the alien leaders. "They are afraid of you," Admiral said. "They are afraid of what you represent. Humans are supposed to be inferior. We are supposed to need alien technology and alien guidance to survive. You proved that belief wrong. You built something that none of their expensive engineers could build. So now they want to take my ship away from me. They want to destroy it completely, and they want to destroy you along with it." Admiral's expression became grim. "There are powerful people in the Council who make their fortunes by keeping humans dependent on alien technology. They sell us inferior ships at very high prices. They control how strong our military can become. If humans start building their own weapons, their entire system of profit collapses." Min made an angry sound. "Politics and money. It is always about politics and money while ordinary people suffer." "There is more that you need to know," Admiral continued. "Is not just a random warlord who attacks colonies for fun. He is funded by those same corrupt council members. The raids, the attacks, the fear and chaos that he creates, it all benefits them. They sell protection to frightened civilians. They sell weapons to desperate colonies. War makes them rich." Hajun absorbed this terrible information slowly. He had always suspected that the galaxy was corrupt, but hearing it explained so clearly was different. The people who were supposed to protect civilians were actually paying for their deaths. "Why are you telling me all of this?" he asked. "You are a Confederacy admiral. Why would you betray your own government?" "Because I am human too, and I am tired of watching my people suffer and die because of alien greed." Admiral's voice was heavy with emotion. "I cannot help you openly. If anyone discovers this communication, I will be arrested and executed as a traitor. But I can give you information. I can warn you when hunters are getting close. And I can hope that someday you will find a way to expose the truth to the entire galaxy." The transmission ended. The crew sat in complete silence, processing everything they had just learned. Finally spoke. "So we are fighting against raiders and against the Confederacy government at the same time. Wonderful. I was worried this mission would be too easy and boring." Hajun almost smiled at her dark humor. Then he turned to face his crew with determination in his eyes. "Admiral is right about one important thing. We cannot win by running and hiding. If we keep trying to escape, eventually they will catch us. We need to change the entire situation." "How can we possibly do that?" Sung asked. "We need proof. We need evidence of the connection between and the corrupt council members. If we can show the whole galaxy what is really happening, those officials will lose all their power and influence." "Keeps his records and financial information at his main base," said thoughtfully. "I know where that base is located. It is a hidden station in the nebula, built into an asteroid. The defenses are extremely strong. Patrol ships watch the area constantly." She paused and looked directly at Hajun. "Attacking that base would be suicide for one damaged ship." "Then we need to find a way to make it not suicide." Min shook her head. "Hajun, I have followed you through many crazy plans, but this is different from anything before. You are talking about attacking a fortress with one broken ship and 5 people. I know exactly what I am proposing. The chances of survival are almost zero. We will probably all die." "I know that too." The crew members looked at each other. They had all joined Hajun for different reasons. Min believed in his vision. Sung was tired of doing nothing important with his remaining years. Jin wanted to save lives that nobody else cared about, owed Hajun her life and wanted to repay that debt. None of them had ever planned to become soldiers. None of them had expected to die fighting against impossible odds in a forgotten corner of space. But one by one, each of them nodded their agreement. "We are with you," Min said quietly, "whatever happens." Ha-Jun felt something warm spread through his chest. It might have been pride, it might have been gratitude, it might have been love for these people who had become his family. "Thank you, all of you." They spent the next 3 days preparing for the attack. Ha-Jun worked on the ship constantly, pushing every system beyond its designed limits. Min gathered information about space from every source she could find. Sung practiced combat maneuvers until he could fly them in his sleep. Jin collected as many medical supplies as possible, contacted old friends and criminal associates, looking for any advantage they could find. On the 4th day, hunters finally found them. The attack came without any warning. 5 enemy ships surrounded the Pale Dawn, blocking every possible escape route. The lead vessel broadcast a message on all frequencies. "Human ship, you are commanded to surrender immediately. Warlord wishes to see you. Resistance will result in your destruction." Ha-Jun looked at his crew. This was the moment of decision. They could surrender and hope for mercy, which would almost certainly mean slow and painful death. Or they could fight against 5 ships, odds that seemed completely impossible. He thought about the Pale Dawn, the ship that had waited 200 years for someone to believe in it. He thought about his crew, ordinary people who had chosen to stand beside him against the darkness. He thought about all the humans across the galaxy, being exploited and oppressed because those in power wanted to keep them weak forever. "Sung," Ha-Jun said in a calm voice, "do you remember that special system I installed last month, the one I said was not ready yet? The transformation system. You told me it might kill us all if it failed." "It might." Ha-Jun moved to a control panel and began entering a long sequence of commands. "But right now, it is our only chance to survive." Deep inside the Pale Dawn, something ancient began to wake up. The hull plates started shifting. The frame began restructuring itself. Systems that had been sleeping for 200 years activated for the first time since the ship was built. The Pale Dawn was not just a disguised warship. It was something much more powerful. A warship with a secret transformation capability that even Ha-Jun had not fully understood until this moment. The ship began to change its shape. The hunter ships watched in complete confusion as the small, beaten vessel started to unfold like a flower blooming. Wings extended from hidden compartments. Weapon ports opened across the entire hull. The curved shape straightened and expanded dramatically. What had appeared to be a 60-meter transport was becoming a 200-meter destroyer. When the transformation finished, the Pale Dawn hung in space in its true form, fully revealed for the first time in 2 centuries. It was beautiful and terrifying. Ha-Jun smiled with fierce determination. "Now let us show them what we can really do." The Pale Dawn hung in space like a blade made of starlight and ancient metal. Its true form was finally revealed to the universe. This was a destroyer, designed for a great war that had ended before the ship could ever fight. 200 years of patient waiting, and now it was fully awake. The 5 hunter ships hesitated in obvious fear. Their sensors were sending confused and contradictory readings. The small transport vessel they had expected to capture easily had transformed into something terrifying. Their computers tried to calculate new threat assessments and returned only error messages. This situation was not supposed to be possible. Ha-Jun did not give them any time to adapt to the new reality. "Fire all weapons at once," he commanded. The Pale Dawn unleashed its complete arsenal in a single devastating strike. Cannons that had never been fired in their entire existence lit up the darkness with brilliant energy. 2 hunter ships exploded in the first 3 seconds of battle. A third ship tried desperately to flee and was cut apart by precision strikes before it could escape. The remaining 2 ships scattered in panic, running in opposite directions as fast as their engines could carry them. Sung pursued one, while Ha-Jun coordinated the destruction of the other. In less than 5 minutes, both enemy vessels were destroyed completely. "All targets have been eliminated," Min reported, her voice shaking with disbelief at what they had just accomplished. "We actually did it. We won." "We are not finished yet," Ha-Jun replied. "We have the information we needed, the location of S's main base. Now it is time to end this war permanently." The crew looked at him with a mixture of fear and determination. They understood what he was asking them to do. Attacking the hunter ships was one thing. Attacking a fortified base, completely alone, against an entire fleet of warships, was something else entirely. But nobody argued with his decision. They had come too far to turn back now. The pale dawn entered the nebula 3 hours later. The nebula was a massive cloud of dust and radiation, hiding the stars behind swirling walls of purple and red color. Somewhere deep inside this beautiful and dangerous place had built his hidden fortress. "Our sensors are very limited in here," Min said with concern. "The radiation interferes with our scanning equipment. We cannot see very far." "The radiation interferes with their equipment too," pointed out. "That is exactly why chose this location for his base. Nobody can find it unless they already know exactly where to look." "Do you know where to look?" Ha-Jun asked. Smiled and entered precise coordinates into the navigation computer. "I contacted some old friends in the smuggling business. One of them sold supplies to for many years. She gave me the exact location of his base. The price was very high, but it was worth every credit." The base appeared through the swirling nebula fog like a dark moon rising from colorful clouds. It was massive, built into an asteroid that had been hollowed out and reinforced with heavy armor. Weapons platforms surrounded it in every direction. Patrol ships circled in constant patterns, always watching for threats. Even with its transformation complete, the pale dawn was badly outnumbered. Ha-Jun counted at least 20 enemy ships, possibly more hidden behind the asteroid. "We cannot fight all of those ships at once," Sung said quietly. "We do not need to defeat all of them." Ha-Jun pointed at a large communication tower rising from the top of the base. "We just need to reach that antenna array." The plan was simple but extremely dangerous. Ha-Jun would upload all the evidence they had gathered to the base's communication system. From there, the information would broadcast automatically to every station and ship in the entire sector. The truth about the corrupt Confederacy officials and the conspiracy that had been killing innocent people for years would be revealed to everyone. "Once that transmission goes out, loses everything," Ha-Jun explained. "His funding from the corrupt politicians disappears immediately. His allies in the government will abandon him to save themselves. Even his own raiders might turn against him when they learn the truth about how he has been using them." "And if we cannot reach the antenna?" Jin asked. "Then we die here, and the truth dies with us forever." Nobody spoke after that. There was nothing left to say. Sung flew the pale dawn into the base's defensive zone at maximum speed. His fleet responded immediately to the intrusion. Ships converged from every direction, weapons charging. The asteroid's defensive cannons opened fire, filling space with deadly energy beams and explosive projectiles. Ha-Jun worked the weapons controls with desperate intensity and perfect focus. He targeted the patrol ships first, clearing a path toward the antenna. The pale dawn shook with every hit it received, its shields straining under the constant assault. "Shields at 40% and dropping," Min called out. 30% now, 20%, they are failing fast." "Keep going forward," Ha-Jun ordered through gritted teeth. "Do not stop for anything." An explosion rocked the ship violently. Sparks flew from a damaged console, burning Min's hands. Somewhere in the lower sections of the ship, a fire alarm began screaming. Jin ran to help crew members who had been injured by the blast. took over a secondary weapons station when the primary gunner was knocked unconscious. Min ignored her burns and redirected power from non-essential systems to keep the shields functioning for a few more precious seconds. Through all the chaos and destruction, Sung flew with impossible skill. He dodged missiles, weaved between attacking ships, and somehow kept the pale dawn moving toward its target despite everything. They reached the communication antenna. Hajun activated the data upload immediately. Information began flowing from the Pale Dawn's computers to the base's broadcast system, carrying evidence of every crime, every conspiracy, every innocent death that and his wealthy allies had caused. Transmission is starting, Min announced. 60% complete, 70%. Then's personal flagship arrived at the battle. The warlord's ship was enormous, at least 3 times larger than the Pale Dawn even in its destroyer form. It pushed through its own fleet without any concern for the smaller ships, knocking them aside as it approached the enemy. A transmission came through on all frequencies. The face of it appeared on every screen, had scales the color of dried blood and eyes that contained no mercy, no compassion, no humanity at all. "Human," growled with terrible anger, "you have caused me more trouble than any creature has in 20 years. I am going to enjoy killing you very slowly and painfully." Hajun did not respond with words. He just watched the upload progress on his screen. 80% complete, 85%. His flagship opened fire with its massive cannons. The Pale Dawn's remaining shields collapsed completely under the assault. The hull was torn open in multiple places at once. Precious atmosphere began escaping into the cold vacuum of space. 90% complete, Min gasped. Another devastating hit struck the ship. The weapons systems failed entirely. The engines sputtered and died. The Pale Dawn was drifting now, helpless and broken. 95% complete. His flagship moved closer, preparing to deliver the final killing blow. Victory was certain now. There was no escape for the humans. Hajun looked at his crew. Min, who had believed in him when nobody else did. Sung, who had given up his peaceful retirement for one last great adventure. Jin, who wanted to save lives even if it meant sacrificing her own. Who had traded safety and comfort for purpose and meaning. He thought about the Pale Dawn, the ship that everyone had dismissed as garbage, the ship that had proven them all completely wrong. 100%, transmission complete and broadcasting. The evidence was sent. Every station in the sector was receiving the truth at this exact moment. Nothing could stop the information from spreading now, but could still destroy them. Hajun made his final decision. "Everyone get to the escape pods immediately," he ordered. "Right now, no arguments." "What are you planning to do?" Min demanded. "I am going to finish this fight." Hajun pushed her firmly toward the corridor leading to the escape pods. "The transmission is broadcasting but will not stop his war. He will hunt down everyone who helped us, unless we end him here and now. You cannot defeat him alone. It is impossible." "I do not plan to defeat him." Hajun's voice was strangely calm and peaceful. "The Pale Dawn has enough emergency power remaining for one final action. I am going to ram the ship directly into his flagship." "Hajun, no. There has to be another way." "There is no other way. Go now, please." He looked at her with eyes full of gratitude and affection. "Thank you for everything you have done, for believing in me." The crew wanted desperately to argue. They wanted to stay and fight beside him. But they could see the absolute determination in Hajun's face, and they understood that nothing would change his mind. One by one, with tears in their eyes, they entered the escape pods. Min was the last to leave. She stopped at the door and looked back at him. "You had better find a way to survive this," she said fiercely. "Because if you die, I will never forgive you." Then she was gone, and Hajun was alone. He sat down slowly in the pilot's chair. He was the only living person on a dying ship, facing the largest warship in the entire sector. He smiled. The pale dawn lurched forward on its last reserves of power. Emergency energy flowed to the damaged engines. The ship moved slowly at first, then faster still. Realized what was happening too late to escape. His massive flagship tried to turn, tried to flee, but it was too large and too slow to avoid the collision. The pale dawn struck the engine core of ship at full ramming speed. The explosion lit up the entire nebula like a newborn star. Both ships were completely consumed in brilliant fire. The shockwave scattered the remaining raider fleet, destroying some vessels and badly damaging others. In the chaos that followed, 4 small escape pods drifted away unnoticed, carrying the survivors to safety. 6 months later, Min stood at a viewpoint window on a frontier station, watching the distant stars. So much had changed since that terrible and glorious battle in the nebula. The evidence Ha-Jun had transmitted had caused a political revolution across the sector. Corrupt officials were arrested and imprisoned. His criminal coalition collapsed completely. For the first time in many years, the frontier was truly peaceful. She heard familiar footsteps behind her and turned around quickly. Ha-Jun walked toward her slowly, moving with obvious difficulty. His left arm was wrapped in bandages, and new scars marked his face. But he was alive. He had ejected from the pale dawn at the very last possible moment, surviving against all reasonable odds. "You made me wait 6 months for this reunion," Min said, trying to sound angry but failing completely. "The medical station refused to allow any visitors. I was busy healing from my injuries and thinking about the future." "What were you thinking about?" Ha-Jun looked out at the countless stars visible through the window. "About what happens next. Admiral offered me an important position in the Confederacy fleet. He wants me to rebuild old ships the same way I rebuilt the Pale Dawn." "What answer did you give him?" "I told him no." Min raised her eyebrows in surprise. "Why would you refuse such an offer?" Ha-Jun smiled. It was the first genuine smile she had seen from him in many months. "Because there is another scrapyard out on the frontier. It is full of abandoned ships that everyone has given up on. Ships that nobody believes are worth saving." More footsteps approached. Sung, Jin, and joined them, all wearing traveling clothes and carrying bags. "We heard rumors about a new project starting," Sung said with a grin. "Something about another impossible ship that needs rebuilding." "We thought you might need some experienced help," Jin added. Simply smiled. "Besides, I was getting extremely bored doing nothing." Ha-Jun looked at his crew, his friends, his family. They had lost nearly everything in the nebula. The pale dawn was gone forever. Their old lives were over completely. But they were still together, and ahead of them, new possibilities were waiting to be discovered. "Let us go find something worth saving," Ha-Jun said. They walked toward the shuttle bay together, leaving the past behind and heading toward whatever adventures waited in the unknown future. The story of the Pale Dawn had ended. But the story of its brave crew was only just beginning.